Bullshit.
You're listening to the No Bullshit Marketing Show. I'm your host, Dave Mastovich. Our guest today is Lisa Allen, President and CEO of the Ziegenfelder Company, the proud producers of Twin Pops. Lisa, pick a tool or tip you'd offer that will help our audience tell their story, craft their message, or communicate to internal and external target audiences. It could be something simple like using Google Trends to generate content ideas, or it could be your favorite book, blog, or productivity resource, or a tip on how to approach their career, whatever you think might help our listeners.
Well, that's another. You've got great questions, by the way.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I would say, as you look to impact others, whether it's through marketing or whatever, it's to me the product or the service that you provide is a reflection of who you are. So I would say that probably the most important thing to be when you're trying to convey a message is to be authentic. Just to be authentic, to be yourself, to be real, to try not to be somebody else. Because I think people can see through that. You want to talk about BS, it's when you're not authentic that people can see through that. I compare it to the emperor with no clothes. Everybody else sees what you don't see. So I think being authentic is really important.
I don't know what you mean by
Siri says that she doesn't know what you mean by that.
She's not sure she agrees.
So Siri doesn't agree.
So I would say be authentic. The other thing that I think has helped me in my career, specifically in the last 10 years, is a very dear friend of mine, for a gift one year, gave me a subscription to the Harvard Business Review. And if there's a education to be had in business, it comes in every single edition of the Harvard Business Review. So whether the subject matter seems as if it relates, if it's marketing, if it's business disruption, technology, whatever it is, there's a full education in every single one of those magazines. I love it. I don't read it enough, but every time I do, actually my organization recognizes that I do because I always come up with a new idea.
I relate to that completely. I love Harvard Business Review. Been reading it for a number of years, and two stories on that. The first is when I have it sitting over here on the side, and you see this stuff that we've moved for the show off of my desk, but when I have Harvard Business Review sitting over the side, I get an anxiety attack if I haven't looked at it, and it's been there like a week, and it came in, I haven't read it yet. So I get an anxiety attack, and I have to go get it and read it. And then the second thing is the same thing as everybody here knows. I either go online and use the online version and clip it into Evernote and send it to everybody, or I'll even bring the ripped out articles and I'll come in all excited, because one of the things that we do here is we try to develop journey maps. And there was a feature in Harvard Business Review on journey maps, and Suzanne's nodding because I brought it in. I'm like, guys, we got to do this. We're doing this. We're on top of it. But it's just such a great resource.
It's amazing. It's amazing. I spent a lot of years people telling me I needed to go get my MBA and go back to school, and I feel like I get it every month when I read it. Now, I don't read it as religiously as I'd like to, but I do something very similar. I make sure that with every leadership meeting we have, or whatever meetings we have, I always have a different article that I think has impact. I have the magazines throughout our company. I hand them out. I ask for them back. And if the new one has been delivered, and I get the hard copy because I think that's important too. If I don't see it and I search around for it and somebody else has gotten it before me, that's real success, because they want to see it before,
yes.
They're so interested. So I think for me, that's hands down. There's thousands of great books out there. But for me, hands down, is the Harvard Business Review.
Well, with that online version now, it makes it so much easier for me to
Absolutely.
send the PDFs to everybody.
Exactly. I know, because I mark them up in the magazine if I have them.
Yep. So now, Lisa, it's time for you to keep calm and hit the bullseye. I'll ask you to choose between two marketing or messaging classics. You tell me which one you like more from a messaging standpoint, but you only have a few seconds to choose and hit the bullseye.
Got it.
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Geico's gecko or the Aflac duck?
Oh, the Aflac duck.
Reach out and touch someone, or Can You Hear Me Now? One's from the 80s and one's from
I know.
today.
Reach out and touch someone is the only one I can think of in my
All
mind.
right, we'll get that one.
Okay.
Chipotle or Moe's?
Moe's.
Moe's!
Welcome to Moe's.
Just say no, or this is your brain on drugs.
This is your brain on drugs.
It's a tough one.
Uh-huh.
The Banana Twin Pop or Monster Fudge?
Monster Fudge.
Me too. Progressives Flow or Jake from State Farm?
Progressive slow, definitely.
Cheers or Friends?
Cheers.
We're going to refer back to it. You're not you when you're hungry, or nobody better lay a finger on my Butterfinger. Snickers or Butterfinger?
I have to say I don't remember them, but I like the Butterfinger one.
All right. The Marlboro Man or the most interesting man in the world?
The Marlboro Man.
All right. So now we get to go back and you get to give us your rationale behind these. So you chose the Aflac Duck.
Because my visual is the last thing I've seen, to be honest.
It made the company. It really did. When you think about it, that campaign made the company.
Absolutely.
Geico uses more than the gecko, so they have more of a variety, but the duck made that company.
Well, and I think that in my opinion, I think that dilutes Geico. Because now all I can visualize is that horrible chainsaw one that they did, and the Geico's nowhere near there. Mm-hmm. So the duck, the one I visualize is the duck with the just now in a CrossFit kind of a class.
Yes.
That's a great one.
So then we took two famous campaigns, Reach Out and Touch Someone from late 80s, and then Can You Hear Me Now, which has been for about 15 years. And you went with Reach Out and Touch Someone. You're the second person that's gone with Reach Out and Touch Someone. I'm happy. Because everybody easily takes the Can You Hear Me Now. All right. So you chose Moe's, though. Give me your rationale on Moe's over Chipotle.
I think Moe's is a more friendly environment. It's a very friendly environment. It's colorful. It's I love both of the restaurants, but I think from a personal and a visual perspective, I like Moe's.
Then you went with Monster Fudge. Now, tell us from a selling standpoint, is Monster Fudge high, or what's the...
No, in fact, it may see a slow... I know. I hate to disappoint you.
We both love it.
I know. It's delicious. But interestingly, it doesn't... The retailers just aren't real interested in it. Actually, this is fascinating. The number one item that's requested the most from us is an all banana sugar-free Twin Pop.
Really?
We probably get 2 to 3 calls a day requesting that. But we can't find a retailer who will provide space on the shelf for a unique item like that. Fascinating. And the Monster Fudge is, to the retailers, it's just another fudge bar. Mm-hmm. So they're really not interested in it.
Those people.
We'll find another way to get it there. We have to remarket it, right?
That's it. So then you went with Progressive's Flow over Jake from State Farm.
Now, Jake, is he the mayhem guy?
Jake is the one where they call and it's 3 a.m. and the one guy's talking and the wife comes in and goes, "Who is that?" And he goes, "It's Jake from State Farm." And then she says, "Sure it is." And then she goes, "What are you wearing?" And he goes, "Khakis."
So I don't know that one. I was thinking of the mayhem guy.
Okay.
Which I don't like those commercials. And I think Flo's she just is likable.
She is.
She's likable. I like her.
So one of our guests was Chef Jacqueline Wardle, who was on Cutthroat Kitchen. And when she had to defend choosing Progressive's Flow, she said, "I don't like khakis."
Oh, jeez.
And I told her, I said, "Jacqueline, that's the best answer that I've heard for that."
Isn't it fascinating how everybody's response is probably different?
Yes.
So that just demonstrates how difficult it is to hit the target.
And there's some times where you have both of the ones people don't know. And I said, that's not a bad thing because that's what marketing is all about. Mm-hmm. The definition was clearly define your target markets. So when Justin Mastrangelo was on, I said Scandal or House of Cards. And he goes, "Neither. My Netflix is all Dora." Because he has little kids. So great. He's not the target. So it shows that marketing matters. You have to drill down your target.
Absolutely.
You chose Cheers over Friends.
I loved Cheers.
2 great shows.
They're 2 great shows. I think it probably was the hour of the day because I had small children then. And I just didn't get a whole lot of Friends in. I got more Cheers in than I got Friends.
Well, Suzanne was a guest of the show. She's here sitting in today for to give us her moral support and marketing feedback of the show. But Suzanne Mayer, and when Suzanne was on, she talked about that must-see TV on Thursday nights. It was
Absolutely.
back to back.
To back. They were great. You had to
ER,
sit down by
Seinfeld,
7 o'clock.
Friends.
Yep.
Yeah, you had to
That's
be ready
great.
for it. Then you went with Nobody Better Lay a Finger on My Butterfinger over the Snickers, You're Not You When You're Hungry.
That's probably because I love Butterfinger.
That's fair. That's fair. Suzanne's over here saying she loves it too.
Yep.
But Suzanne also knows that when I'm ornery to grab me a Snickers bar, so it works well. Then you went with the Marlboro Man over the most interesting man in the world.
I visualize the Marlboro Man. That's from 30 years ago? More.
More probably,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the more legendary spokesperson things in
You
our
can
space.
say that and anyone 30 and younger would never know who that is, but probably has heard of it.
Exactly. Exactly. So now we move on to our next pop culture
Dun,
segment.
dun, dun.
And this episode, Sights and Sounds of Marketing, starts with the song Crumbling Down by John Cougar Mellencamp from 1983. And you said, I love John Cougar Mellencamp. And I said, see, once a DJ, always a DJ. I always try to pick a song that I've written something about and try to match the audience. And you happen to love John Cougar Mellencamp.
And actually, when you say you had the Cougar, that dates us.
Yes, because John Cougar was what he used to be, not the Mellencamp.
Not Mellencamp, and then he became Mellencamp.
Yeah. See, I liked him better when he was just John Cougar. This song was when he was just No, this was the first album when he was Mellencamp, actually. This was. All right, so the song starts off with Some People Ain't No Damn Good. Narcissists, mean-spirited bullies, glory hounds, leaders of the clique. Every company has its share. The next line is, you can't trust them, you can't love them. Sometimes they're loud and obnoxious and easy to spot, but others are passive-aggressive and disguise their hostilities. Peers, bosses, subordinates, up, down, throughout the organization. The song says, no good deed goes unpunished. You put yourself out there, they take advantage of you. You work around them, they come after you. And I don't mind being their whipping boy. I've had that pleasure for years and years. Some victims use the grin and bear it approach and internalize the stress, while others perpetuate the cycle by mimicking abusive behavior of bosses and peers. The song says, don't need to look over my shoulder to see what I'm after. We all have mistreated a coworker at some point. The keys are to learn from the situation and work to improve. Listen to those who know you best. They'll tell you when you're out of line. We already touched on that earlier today. We talked about how at both Twin Pops Ziegenfelder and at Mass Solutions, we're fortunate to have people that have the courage and the trust to come to us and tell us when we're out of line. One of my favorite lines right here, time respects no person. What you lift up must fall. The bigger challenge is dealing with peers and bosses who are consistently abusive. There's no magic cure-all, but the following strategies could help. Remember, the nastiness isn't about you. It's typically tied to their lack of self-esteem. Concentrate on achieving small successes to regain confidence. Identify character people in the company who get things done without stepping on others. Work with them as much as possible. Stand up to bullies with facts, not emotion, because they often back down. Focus on the best interests of the organization. This approach usually wins out, or the company fails. When the walls come tumbling down, when the walls come crumbling, when the walls come tumbling down. Lisa, your thoughts on the theme of crumbling down?
Well, I'm really disappointed because I love this song and I never listened to the words. But it's my thoughts. It's totally depressing. It's lonely. It's lonely and depressing, and for me, I would leave. Why would somebody stay in that environment? So I'm hung up on being depressed about it. So for me, that's, I need to change that organization. I need to get in there and I need to fix it. And we need to get rid of the people who are acting like that, and develop the people who really have talent and want to. So there's things I agree with. There's things I don't agree with. The issues are not it's typically a self-esteem issue for the power-hungry, abusive people. And this also, unfortunately, touches on probably the one issue that really makes me feel I get a visceral feeling when I think somebody's not being well treated. It's the bigger people take advantage of the weaker, and I can't deal with that. So I wouldn't be very good in that kind of an environment.
I've had I'm actually going to call it the opportunity because it helped mold me as a leader, but a couple of larger companies that I were with, you saw this culturally. And the one that bothered me the most was the pack mentality when someone was vulnerable, when someone had made a mistake and then a second mistake, and now the third mistake came and you knew they were in trouble, and then everyone pounced on them. And that would bother me because I would say, we're all making mistakes, and now we're pouncing on him or her because we know he's vulnerable and he could possibly be fired, and we could somehow leverage that for our own gain. And that really bothered me a lot. So that was one of the pieces that bothered me. And then the passive aggressive behavior that you can get away with in a bigger company. If you're passive aggressive in my company or your company, we're to the size that it's going to be noticeable and it's going to be called out and it's going to self-police, if you will. But when you're in those big companies and you're in the cube farm, you can be passive aggressive and get away with it. And that's what I lived in, those really big companies. And it's why I wanted to start Mass Solutions. So to me, this song was an opportunity because that's why I started Mass Solutions. I wanted to be able to try to do it a different way. I'm not perfect at it, but we're trying.
I think that's great. So it's that one starfish at a time.
Exactly.
And I think that's our role as leaders at our company. Your role as a leader in the community, sharing marketing messages delivers so much deeper than just how do you traditional marketing. And I feel like that's my role in our company is to ferret that out when I see it. We had a situation just recently that I think we're in the process of addressing things like that where rather than dealing with somebody's behavior, we ignore it, we justify it, we explain it off. But the only people that we're fooling, once again, the emperor with no clothes, the only people that we're fooling is ourselves because everybody else sees it. Everybody else knows what's going on. It's demoralizing for everyone else. So it's my responsibility, my obligation, and our leadership team's obligation to focus on those things. And that's why we as a company are focusing on leadership development. Because I truly believe that leadership development trumps everything else. So whether it's finance or technology or strategy or you can focus on those things, but leadership learning, leadership development is equal to them all because you'll get those once you develop the right kind of people.
Absolutely. Leadership drives the company. That's Lisa Ellen, President and CEO of the Ziegenfelder Company, and we're doing Sights and Sounds of Marketing 1983. Other sights and sounds of the year 1983 include Motorola introduces the first mobile phone. It was actually called a car phone, and it was about as big as an iPad is now, but also maybe 3 times as thick. Remember those days?
And it attached to your car, and it had a push button and a push button stand and a handle. Yes, we had one.
And you had to have an antenna, a special antenna
Absolutely.
put on the top of your car.
On the top of your car.
Now,
I do remember that. It was a magnetic one. Clank. Yeah, I do remember that.
I try to show this to my kids. I say, look, this was the phone. That one that was like, looks like a brick.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Sally Ride becomes the first woman in space on the Space Shuttle Challenger in 1983.
Pretty impressive.
Here's another one to just show our generational age. Lotus 123. Lotus 123 and Microsoft Word are introduced. Now, to anyone born after 1990, Lotus 123 means nothing.
Nothing.
But wasn't that a game changer?
Absolutely it was. Absolutely it was.
And you just couldn't believe it. You're like, wait a minute, this adds and subtracts and multiplies
It
for
does
me.
everything for me. And I don't have to do anything. Push this button. It's like the Jetsons.
For you kids, that's Excel now. Let's call it
right.
Excel. The Swatch watch becomes a popular accessory. Lisa, did you have a Swatch watch?
Multiple Swatch watches. The plastic band.
Yes. Yep. Sights and Sounds from 1983. So then we try to get some messages in there. Do you remember this one? Time to make the donuts was Dunkin' Donuts' successful television ad campaign.
I do not remember that one.
Okay, so the guy would show the guy. It was like a roundish, baldish, mustachioed, short guy appeared to be in his 50s who was making the donuts, and he'd get up and they'd show him at 5 in the morning, then they'd show him later in the day, then they'd show him the next day at 5 in the morning, driving to work and everything. His phrase would just be time to make the donuts. And it was Dunkin' Donuts, who's had some really good campaigns and a big comeback the last 10 years, a big comeback with the DD logo and the focusing on their coffee being a completely different style of coffee. Where do you weigh in on the coffee? Because there's two types, I think. There's the people that lean towards Starbucks and the people that lean towards Dunkin' Donuts. Like my parents think Starbucks is like drinking gasoline. It's so strong. And then I can't drink a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Where do you weigh in on coffee?
Well, I have to confess, I buy Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
There you go.
I buy it at the grocery store.
There's incredible loyalty to Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Absolutely. They have great coffee.
There was one person that was picking up her son. We have an AAU team, so they're from a different school district, and she comes to the house to pick up her son. She goes, "I'm so excited. Now every time I come to pick up Gavin at the house, you have a Dunkin' Donuts I can pass right past it." She goes, "I have to drive 10 minutes for mine." And I said, like, great. Guess we're doing okay. So Flashdance is filmed in Pittsburgh and makes leg warmers fashionable.
Favorite movie? One of my favorite movies.
Really?
Absolutely.
It's in your top 10.
It definitely in my top 10.
What's your most memorable scene from that movie, Flashdance, filmed here? Give a little background on what it's about for.
So Flashdance is about this beautiful young woman who works very hard, works in the steel mills, and her dream is to be a dancer. So she starts out, or the movie starts out with her dancing in a strip club.
Yes.
And she meets a gentleman. Actually, no. Dancing at a strip club. He's at the strip club, but they don't talk. And then she realizes he's her boss or a supervisor at the steel mill. And it's about their developing relationship. But it's about a young woman who has not much family, but she's very close with her grandmother. And she's a hard worker, and she cuts through all the BS. Mm-hmm. But she really wants to dance at Juilliard, I believe is the dance school, whatever it is. And she's an incredible dancer, and she changes the judges to allow her to enter their school. She changes their impression of dance by her style of dance.
I can hear Irene Cara's "What a Feel"
I know.
coming up after that. That was a great. It was almost like the trailer.
I know. I love it. And she rode her bike up and down Mount Washington. It was a great movie.
There was a bunch of scenes at Station Square. Mm-hmm. There were scenes.
But that was old Pittsburgh.
Yeah, it's the South Side one. It was really, really nasty. People think the South Side is nasty now. There were scenes from the South Side, the Gandy Dancer, all kinds of different places.
Beautiful, beautiful movie. I loved it.
Flashdance, 1983. The primetime soap operas Dallas and Dynasty are two of the top 3 TV shows. Dallas was one and Dynasty was third. Which one did you like better?
I didn't watch them. I had young kids at the time, and I just didn't. I was more into Elmo, and no, I didn't watch those.
I wasn't a fan of either, so I can't even jump in on that one. But there was, in the Sights and Sounds of 1983, the last one is one of the more memorable slogans of all time. "Friends don't let friends drive drunk" debuted and becomes one of the most memorable public service announcements of all time.
Excellent.
So, Lisa, how can listeners contact you if they'd like to learn more about what you do?
Oh, that's a great question. So, a number of ways. Our Facebook page, which is Budget Saver, which is our brand name. We're on Instagram. Our website is budgetsaver.com. Anybody can go to that and find us. And my email address, I'll give you my email address. So if anybody wants to contact me directly, feel free to.
Well, this is a first, folks. We've got
really?
a CEO giving her email address.
I'll be glad
this is
to.
awesome.
I'll be glad to. And then I'll let you know how many listeners you have.
Okay.
My
So
email address.
I'm going to have my whole staff email her under
That's right.
fake Gmail addresses. Heard you on the show.
My email address is Allen, A-L-L-E-N. So it's Lallen at twinpops.com.
Lisa, thanks for being on the show.
You're welcome, Dave. Thank you.
Great episode. Thanks for joining us for the No Bullshit Marketing Podcast. Visit boldsolutionsnobs.com or boldsolutionsnobs.com. For show notes plus additional marketing and messaging resources, sign up for Light Reading. You'll receive valuable strategies every other week to improve your marketing and transform your message. It really is light, intended to be read in 2 minutes or less, and it just might trigger bright ideas for you. To sign up, visit masssolutions.biz. Remember, ask yourself, what's the big idea? And build your story around the answer. It's all about bold solutions, no BS.